Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Spirit Lift Sundays. I have so many different shows going on. I can't remember which one I'm doing when. So today is Spirit Lift Sunday. Welcome everyone who is participating live and who will be watching this later. I finally got real clarity about what time to do Spirit Lift Sundays. I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between different times. And this morning I had planned to go on at 9 a.m. and I had some issues with Facebook, some technological glitches, and it wouldn't allow me to stream. So I sat with that and I tuned in and I asked, okay, what's going on here? What is the best time for me to do Spirit Lift Sundays? And the answer that came through was noon. So 12 p.m. Pacific time. That's 12 p.m. my time. And I really wanted to know why that particular time. And what I find really fascinating is there's my personality self, or what others might call the egoic self, that wants to be in control of everything. So that part of myself wanted to be in control of what time I love stream, as I call it. And it was, doing the logical reasoning thing that the personality self does. And it was based on, what time when my kids are here, what time they have breakfast, and if other people if it's a good time that works for other people. Because 9 a.m. works for people, on the West Coast for the most part, because it's not too early that they're still asleep, and it's not so late that they aren't out running around doing things. So I was basing what time to have my show at a time when I thought would work best for people in the United States. And then Spirit reminded me that this show isn't just for people in the United States, that this is about spreading love waves across the entire planet. And that to have this show at a time that works for absolutely everyone is pretty much impossible, because we are talking about the entire planet. And also what I was being shown is that by having it at noon, anyone else who is in the US, and if they go to regular church, they will have been finished with it by then if they want to participate in the live stream. So from this point forward, I'm sticking with noon Pacific time, because that seems to be the time that Spirit's told me works best. So that's what it's going to be. No more jumping around and trying to figure out the correct time. So I'm here with you today, and I'm going to pull up the comments in case there's anybody who wants to add a comment at some point. My intention for this program, for this show, if you will, is to share insights that Spirit shares with me, spend about 20 to 30 minutes talking about what Spirit's been teaching me over the past week, or what is love streaming through me at the time that I'm on camera. And then also answer questions if people have any questions in the chat. So if there are people in the chat that want their questions answered, then I'm available for that. If there isn't anyone in the chat, then I'll cut the teaching short, just based on how it feels. I might actually end up going for a whole hour, depending on the subject. So that's that. Now, what's been coming to me this week? Well, one, I have to share with you again, as I've said in a couple of other shows, that my higher self communicates to me through song, which I find really interesting, some of the songs that come in, because there's just random songs that pop into my head from absolutely nowhere. And then I have to stop and tune in and ask what they're all about. So this song that's been playing in my head the last couple of days, actually kept me awake a couple of nights ago, is this song, The Peace Train, from, like the 1970s, I think. So in the comments after the show is finished, I'll put a link to the song in there. But what was coming in was the first part that says, I've been smiling lately, thinking about the things to come. And I don't really know much of this song. That kept playing over and over again in my head. And then the other part that says, climb on the peace train. So that's kind of the mind frame that I've been in, well, actually for quite some time. And I think that's what we're being asked is to stop focusing on what appears to be real and start thinking about the good things to come. That's how we raise our vibration. So many people have been asking me, how do I raise my vibration? How do I raise my vibration? Well, the best place, of course, to start with raising your vibration is gratitude, because gratitude can shift your experience from negative to positive like that. It's instant. And it's because it's impossible to be grateful and complaining at the same time. Those two energies can't exist within the same space. So when people are complaining about what's going on in the world and focusing on all the fear, fear propaganda, fear stories, fear, all that, right? That's really going on right now. This fear chaos that humanity is presently dealing with. As long as we focus on that and we're in this space of fear and complaining, it's almost impossible to shift into the ascension timeline that we're all wanting to participate in, and to raise the vibration into the level of loving that's necessary for us all to collectively move into that new earth reality that we're all wanting to create. So we need to figure out how to get out of complaining and into gratitude. That's the easiest way to shift our vibration more than anything else. And that means also trying to figure out how to be grateful for even the most ugly parts of our lives. It takes a little bit of work, definitely takes some practice. And when you're able to look at even the most painful parts of your personal life and our collective story through the eyes of gratitude, it changes everything. Everything in your life shifts once you're able to shift into gratitude. So, yeah, that's what Spirit was telling me 10 years ago. Begin with gratitude. And that has always been my personal experience. Whenever I start to feel my energy slip or I start to feel frustrated with other people, I just go back into gratitude. How can I be grateful for them? Even the people who I know might be slinging energetic arrows at me. I just, when those arrows get hurled toward me, I actually transmute them into flowers and hearts and send them back to the person that's sending them to me, and asking how I can see that person through the eyes of love and gratitude, because every person on our planet plays a very important role in this world that we're creating. And when people hurl negative thoughts toward me, it helps me grow a little bit more spiritually and learn how to see them through the eyes of love and compassion. So, and gratitude for the lessons that I've learned because of the role that they're playing in my life, because I think every person has lessons to teach us that can help us grow. And so, begin with gratitude. Begin with gratitude for the new earth we are creating. Gratitude for what is yet to come. That's an area that I think a lot of people kind of get stuck in, because it's one thing to be grateful for the good that currently exists in our reality. Being grateful for the painful past is another level of gratitude. And then being grateful in advance for the world that's about to come is actually what brings it into fruition. You see, when enough of us are grateful for the world we want to create, the world we're envisioning, this peace on earth, that's collective, prosperity for all, that actually, because we are envisioning it and we are putting our gratitude for it in advance, is actually what will create it. So one of the things that's also coming through for me this morning is one of my favorite quotes. Divine love through me makes all things possible. So there's this perception that God exists outside of us and we have to earn our right to be in his presence, and that heaven has always been a place that we've had to die to get to. And I think there are enough of us who are starting to really understand that it's at hand, it's in our own hands, and that we are all aspects of divine love, and that energy we call God is in all things. It is all things. It is divine love. It's the glue that binds us all together. It's the stuff that all things are made of, and that no one is separate from it unless they start to separate themselves, although it still is all things. And that when we consciously understand that all things are possible through God, and therefore all things are possible through each of us, then there's a level of self-responsibility that comes with that. That through me, through you, all things are possible because we are all divine love, God's source energy embodied as every single one of us. So rather than waiting for someone else to change the world, expecting someone at the top to change the world, which we know it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's the biggest changes that have ever occurred on our planet have come from grass movements of the people at the very bottom no longer willing to be limited by the controls of the people at the top. You know, I was just having this conversation a few minutes ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how the revolution started. It started in people's homes, in people's living rooms, in the churches, where people got together with other like-minded people and what I call like-hearted people, and started talking. How can we, on a grassroots level, create this world in a way that works for everyone? And so what Spirit's been telling me, and every person I know who's a spiritual teacher has been getting exactly the same message, that if it is to be, it is up to me and you and each of us as individuals, really getting together and having these conversations about what would the world look like if we were the ones creating it. Because that is true. We are all creators. That is the core essence of the divine human blueprint, is that we are all creators. The difference is that becoming conscious of our ability to create and our ability to consciously create the new reality that we seek. And so it's time for us to start gathering now. We've been gathering on camera, but I think it's time to start gathering in person, because there's something that happens when people can get together and have intimate conversations. And what's really important when we're doing these conversations is to not cancel each other out, because the way that we're going to move forward in our collective reality is being willing and open to have conversations with people who don't see the way that we see. And that's actually what the Christ meant when he said to turn the other cheek. It wasn't about, turning your cheek so that your enemy can hit the other side. It's about turning our cheek and being able to look from the other person's perspective, because every person's perspective is valid and is needed and is a part of this reality that we're creating. We need to be able to hear each other and communicate with each other and try to understand each other. And as we start to have these conversations on a grassroots level, we can have these conversations about, if we were the ones creating our reality, what would it look like? And then get busy creating it. Because nobody's going to do it for us. We actually are the ones we've been waiting for. And, those of us in the spiritual community have been saying that for years. I've been saying that for the last 10 years. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And we are the ones that will save humanity from itself. Not that we need to save people. It's more about each of us being the representation of love and light that will elevate humanity to a new way of living that I don't think humanity has experienced for, well, my understanding has been about 25,000 years since our last age of heaven on earth. That's actually what the Garden of Eden was. So it's up to us. Divine love through each of us makes all things possible. So we need to start gathering together with other people who see what's possible through the eyes of love and start creating a new reality based on that. Because right now, everything that we're experiencing is based on fear, and a lot of it is fear disguised as love. And we need to be able to begin deciphering the difference between what is genuine love and what is fear disguised as love. And that's kind of tricky because fear is so good at deceiving. That's what it does best. Deception deceives. And so learning how to, one, be awake and aware enough to start really deciphering the difference. All the stories that we're being bombarded with every day, and the I don't want to use the word propaganda because that feels too, I don't go into that, but it's the continual messages that are coming through our field from every possible direction that on the surface look like love. But if we are willing to do the work to start peeling off the layers and see whether they're actually fear disguised as love. And once we're able to start deciphering whether we're being, the word that's coming in is love washed. I've never heard that before. That humanity's been love washed for a very long time. And it's this glossing over of what's really going on in the world with this just like washing over of love. And that underneath that is fear. And that if we're going to create this new reality that we all imagine creating, that heaven on earth, that peace on earth, that prosperity for all golden age of humanity, that I think deep inside of almost every human being is that desire. I mean, there might be a small percentage of humanity that is so focused on greed that they can't remember that they are the embodiment of love, and are so driven by fear themselves that they think that they have to control the rest of humanity in order for them to be happy. So there is that's such a small percentage of humanity, though. I believe every person across the entire planet wants exactly the same thing. And that is for their children to feel safe, for them to feel safe and secure, and to be free, to be themselves without fear of judgment and fear of ridicule and fear of if it's right or wrong, or fear of whether they go to heaven or not. I mean, everything is fear-based on our planet until we start to recognize it for what it is and then learn how to transmute it into love. So I think the vast majority of humanity really wants peace on earth and joy to the world and prosperity for all. And there's so many more of us than the small few who don't want that. That when enough of us make that our focus, the few who are using fear as a means of control will lose their grasp, their grip on humanity, because there's so many more of us than there are them. We just have to remember that. It's funny that the visual I'm getting right now is the ant bully, right? And most of the movies I've seen in the last 20 years have been kids shows because I'm growing up with my children, and so I've seen all the animated films. And I think about Ant Bully and how all of the ants finally got together and took out the bully. And And well, actually, in that case, it was different. The bully kind of got to experience what it was like to be one of the ants, and he ended up taking out the exterminator. So sorry for anyone who I just ended this show for you if you've never seen it, but do see it because it's a really cute movie. But it's showing how it doesn't matter how small we might seem to feel individually, that collectively we have the power. It's always about we the people having the power, and we just need to stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated and told that we're against each other, and remember that we all have much more in common than we think we do, or that we've been told to believe we do, and get back into the heart. The heart of humanity is love. The heart of humanity is compassion. Nobody enjoys sending their children off to war, and no person has ever dreamed of being homeless when they grow up. That is a false reality that's been painted for us. And children are not born competitive. Human beings are born compassionate. We learn fear and competition. And so this is about really learning, how to see all of life through the eyes of love. How can we see our past human story through the eyes of love? How can we see our own individual stories through the eyes of love? So for me, I had some very, very painful experiences growing up, and learning how to see my own story through the eyes of love has completely changed my entire perspective, not just of how I grew up and the cult that I grew up in and all the craziness from my childhood and the assaults, all of that. I had to learn how to see it all through love. And what I've come to really, really embrace my story is that I know I couldn't be who I'm here to be, doing the work that I know is my soul's calling here on the planet, if I hadn't experienced everything in that painful story. And I no longer have any resentment of any kind toward any of it, because it was all part of a learning experience for me to be who I'm here to be. And it's possible for everyone to get that point. And I think it's possible for the collective of humanity to finally get to that point about our entire human story. That when we arrive at this new earth, part of arriving at this new earth is processing our personal stories and processing the collective story, and really seeing how the really most painful parts of our collective story helped to create this new earth that we're creating, because we wouldn't be able to really appreciate the new earth that's being created, that we are intercreating, without having been through the really painful parts of the story as well. So the contrast is part of the experience. And so I'm just focusing on the good things to come. That song is playing out in my head again, the good things to come. And what's coming is so good and so beautiful and so magical. And it will come because of enough of us are envisioning it coming. Enough of us are no longer willing to envision the fear-based reality that's being fed to us across every platform. We don't have to engage in that. We don't have to create that. Even I think about the book of Revelations and how that has also been used to keep humanity in fear of this dystopia that's wanting to be created around us. That doesn't have to, none of that has to be real. We can actually bypass all that. Just because somebody prophesied the end of the world and blah, 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 it doesn't mean that's how it has to be. And so many people are out there, reading their book of Revelation and looking for all of the end of the world signs. And because of that, we continue to be kept in fear because people keep looking for the fear signs. And I'm going to focus on looking for the love signs of this reality that we have the ability to create. So the other visual that was coming in just before I popped on camera is about giving birth. So we collectively are giving birth to a new reality. And we can either have a really painful birth that is very stressful and panicky and chaos filled, or we can have a hypnobirth. And the way that we birth this new reality is up to all of us, to how we perceive this new reality being created. We can either create it through chaos or we can create it through calm. And so the more of us that focus on creating it through calm, the less painful and chaotic the process will be. Now, chaos is always part of it. There's always, I was having a discussion earlier with a friend of mine about the stress that a butterfly feels just before it pushes through the cocoon. And then we were talking about how when birds hatch, how they like frantically peck at the shell before it finally pushes through. There is a little bit of chaos that does happen, and when humans are giving birth to their infants, the baby goes under a great deal of stress. And the more calm the mother is, the more calm the energy is, the less stressful that push through is. And so it's up to each one of us to hold that calm and to not get caught up in the chaos and not get caught up in the fear. And while there are things happening on the planet that are against free will choice, if you will, that are attempting to abrogate our free will choice, we don't have to get caught up in the chaos of it, and we don't have to get caught up in the fear of it. We can see it and recognize it, and we can choose to diffuse it through our own loving heart. And when enough of us hold that consciousness, then humanity will be able to push through this present birth experience with greater grace and ease. So today's message is all about how each of us are divine love through us, and that we are the ones that are creating this new reality. And that as we remember that we are all the embodiment of love, and then we start bringing together other people who understand that as well. Surround ourselves with them. What is the world we want to create? Not the division that we're being told is how we are, because the division is not real. It is part of the ploy that's being played out in fear to keep us from unifying and to keep us from coming together and creating the new world. So we need to stop being part of the division. And so I get really frustrated when I see people who consider themselves to be awake, but they're bad-mouthing people who don't agree with them, rather than sitting down and having real conversations and coming together with the truth that we all want exactly the same thing. They were all love embodied, and that we all want to create a new reality based in love. And in order to get to that new reality based in love, we have to stop fighting amongst ourselves and come together in unity and harmony for what's the greatest good for all of humanity. And as we do, every system on our planet will start to shift. Every system on our planet will start to shift because we are shifting within ourselves and shifting within small groups, and then spreading that out throughout our community. So what I was being shown earlier is how it begins first with some of us getting together and saying, what do we want our community to look like? What do we want our school system to look like? And then and then finding people who agree with that new reality that we want to create, and they become, they run for school board, they become the new school board, they run for community office, they become the new community officers. That's how we change reality. We don't change our reality by going all the way to the top and expecting the people at the top to change. It doesn't work that way. Every revolution, and I use the term revolution not as in a fight, because it doesn't have to include weapons of mass destruction or guns or swords or any of that. The only weapon we need is the sword of truth and our voice. I actually wrote a post on Facebook a couple of days ago about the power of voice, and that because each of us are an embodiment of God's source love through each of us, that what we speak creates our reality. So really all we need is our voice, our cameras. We don't need, stages in front of thousands and thousands of people, unless at some point we feel called to do that. It's about using our voices collectively in harmony, in love, with the desire for peace, the desire for prosperity, the desire for joy to the world, and gathering up other individuals who have that same mindset, that same heart set. And we start voting for them first in our local communities, and then that spreads outward, and that becomes the new normal. We create the new normal. That's how we create, what I've been seeing the last couple of weeks are we're creating two completely different realities side by side on the same planet. And that's how we do it. We start, what Spirit's been showing me for months is love hacking the airwaves. And the word that came in earlier today is love hacking politics. Right? Like, that's how we do it. Start small within our own communities, within our own homes, and then spread that outward. That's how we change our entire collective reality. And so it's about getting together, gathering other people up who also want to create that new reality. And then we be the ones that start to create it until that becomes the normal. So I think that's the message for today. Divine love through me makes all things possible. And to begin with gratitude in all things. I thank you all for being here today, for participating. Those of you who are part of the chat, thank you for being a part of the chat and for your loving presence in the stream. And let us love stream this new reality into being. Make this the new vision. The new leaders of this world are you. And so this is going to require boldness. It's going to require courage. It's going to require resilience to be able to take on those new leadership roles that we're being asked to take on. And we got this. We're in this together, right? Humanity will be unified under the banner of love and light when enough of us hold that as our singular banner. And so until we meet again, remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. And love will win. Bye-bye.